you have to have, reasons for the decisions that you make. It's not art, it's design. This is a blue collar craft. Art just exists for its own sake. It just hangs on a wall and it's beautiful. I love art. Design gets to work, and a lot of people overlook it because it's so ubiquitous. Everywhere you go, there's graphic design. Good graphic design really stands out.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today. I am your host, David Block, and I am happy to welcome a graphic designer, a video editor, and multimedia storyteller, Joseph Patrick. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David. This has been something I've been looking forward to for a while now. I'm really excited to do this. Thanks for this opportunity.
Excellent. I'm really looking forward to getting in and exploring your work journey, your work history. And so what I like to do is I like to go as far back as I can to explore your early inspiration. And my first question is, what was it that drove that passion for you to be in the world of design? Was there anything in particular that sparked the interest for you?
Well, gosh, growing up, I was always just the kid who could draw. I had a hard time in school. School was kind of tough on me. And I think it is, for a lot of us, because we learn differently. Creatives learn a little bit differently than other people do. And so frankly, school was kind of rough on me. And so just drawing all the time and keeping to myself was something that I did a lot. And over the years, keep doing something long enough and get a little better at it. And so by the time I graduated high school, I figured, time to go to college. And so now that I know what to do, I went to psychology. And after the first semester of that, I used the psychology on myself to realize I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I'm going to be miserable. The only other thing I can do halfway decent is draw, but I can't make a living as an artist. You don't see a lot of artists driving Bentleys these days. And so I had a friend of mine that I went to high school with who had moved to Houston and went to the Art Institute of Houston. And he said, Joseph, you've got to come check this place out. Long story short, I spent a week with him and shadowing him on classes. And all of a sudden, these things that I had been doing for most of my life, they had terms. There's typography, there's grids, there's all of the things that I had already been doing all this time. I just now knew that you could make a living doing it. And so I got really thrilled about that. And the Art Institute was filled with other like-minded creatives, people who just knocked my socks off with their concepts and their ideas and their skills. And that just really lit a fire in me. I'm like, look, this is something that I'm really excited about. I really enjoy it. And, even though I didn't do really well in traditional school, in art school, I stayed on the dean's list, all A's except for math. I did as good as I could in math, but I just lived at that school. They would close the labs at 2 a.m. I would stay every day till 2 a.m., get up the next morning, go to work, after work, hit the lab again. I was just in love with graphic design. And a lot of that comes from the passion with which my instructors taught me, the information I learned, the history of it all. It's just fascinating. I don't know, I'm going to ramble a bit, I guess, but to me, it looked like a superpower. We were everywhere and nobody knew it. Anything that needed words and pictures, that's us. And I wanted to be a part of that. Now I wanted to get my stuff out there and have it seen and enjoyed.
That's awesome. It's like you were taking the words right out of my head. That's how I feel about it too. It's kind of like we're adults playing with arts and crafts, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Playing with shapes and colors and typography. And so,
hey, look, if a professional athlete gets to play games for a living or sports for a living, I mean, there's other things you can do for a living that you can enjoy. And this is just one of them, thankfully.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So now looking back at your time in college, I would like to know, generally I would go into, what sort of classes did you like? What kind of things, projects did you do that you learned from? But I think an overarching question, a better question is, if you look back at your time in school, what was it that you took away, the biggest takeaway from that time that you still integrate into your processes today?
Believe it or not, the basics, the fundamentals. Again, I had been drawing for a long time and I'd been doing things, the way I thought they ought to look, but knowing a Swiss grid, knowing why we use things the way we do, learning the history of graphic design, the history of fonts, the history of typography and the printing process, and, everything all the way back from cutting amber lith and ruby lith to today, where we have very advanced technology helping us out with graphic design. And so every day when I sit down, whenever I open up a project or a task, the first thing I do whenever I'm ready to attack the project is to lay out my grids, figure out what fonts I'm going to use. I do all the work before the work. It's something that they taught me to do in school. Instead of just, I'm bored, I'm going to draw now. Gosh, if I'd have kept going on that route, client, hey, I need a logo. Well, here you go. Well, not like that. Well, here you go. So with learning the basics, I know that there are critiques, that there are multiple ways to do the same thing, to get different messages depending on the color and the shape, the size, the whole thing. So the fundamentals, the basics, color theory, typography, it's not a very exciting answer, but the basics. If you got the basics, if you live, eat, and breathe the basics, then it becomes second nature to you. And so that's when the talent comes in, and that's when the fun comes in, because whenever all the math and the technical stuff becomes automatic, then that you can just play, and it's that's what I think I got the most out of art school, was the basics and the fundamentals, and getting an appreciation for that.
Right. Excellent. Okay. Now, I was looking at your resume, and I noticed that, so you graduated 2003 from the Art Institute,
right?
And then I noticed that you went to work as a teacher in 2005. Is that right?
That's right.
I'd love to know. First of all, what happened in between those years, and how did that come about?
So the very first job I got as a graduate graphic designer was, of course, in fashion. So I got hired by this company, and what they did was they would have shirts and they would have these things embroidered all over, and they needed somebody who could design the little things to be embroidered all over it. And so that's what I did for my first, official, real big boy grown up graphic design job, was working in fashion. And that opened up my eyes to all kinds of things. There's things that you can and can't do. You have to work a season ahead, which has really helped me with graphic design too, especially in a corporate setting where, hey, the holidays are coming up or this is coming up. If you're already working in advance, fashion helped me out with that a whole lot. So that's where I was. I was making lovely clothing.
That's awesome. Wow. Well, so then what was that company with? I'm sorry, let me say that again. What company were you with in the fashion industry?
Oh, that was a small Texas company called Casey Coleman Cotton Tex, and they shuttered, not through my fault, but there was a lot of things that happened with the company, with the owners, and so things just didn't work out. And after 20 years of doing that business, they ended up going belly up, and so I was needing a job and getting back to the teaching thing. It was I was living in Houston at the time with my lovely bride, and I was looking for a job, and I had a friend of mine from back in Louisiana. I was born and raised in Louisiana, and he called me up and he says, "Can you teach graphic design?" I says, "Yeah, if the price is right, I can teach anything." So I still had all the fundamentals and the basics and the fire in me to do graphic design. So teaching it just, that struck a chord with me. So he says, I don't have a bachelor's degree. He goes, you don't need a bachelor's degree. It's a technical college. So all you need is, equivalent years or prove that you get the skills to do it and that kind of thing. So I had the portfolio and the history and the backing to say, I can do this. And so they hired me on to be a teacher at a technical college in Baton Rouge.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm curious if you basically took you were in college recently, right? Just before that. So what lessons did you take from your experience and integrate into your teaching? Probably everything, right? The whole thing.
Right. Well, like every creative, we have our own way of doing things. We all use pencils, but we use pencils differently. And so with the fundamentals and the basics, I was teaching them the same things that I had learned, but in my way, using more humor, more pop culture references, more topical things. Well, let me back up a little bit, because I say that I teach at a technical college, and my campus was located on a maximum security prison called Angola in Louisiana. So all of my students were incarcerated and we're there for various degrees of ne'er-do-wellery. if that's even a term. So that came with a lot of challenges because, children, they have the whole future in front of them. They have, even young men and women, they have the whole future in front of them. My students, why learn anything? Well, there's a possibility, there's hope. Once you get out, you'll have a skill set. And I'm proud to say that of a handful of students who were able to get out over the course of my time teaching there, and since then they've kept in touch. They have been able to open up silkscreen shops or embroidery shops, or go off to their own graphic design careers. So it was well worth it. These are people who, I think the thing that broke my heart the most was whenever I'm teaching, drawing basics and things like that, and then somebody realizes how naturally good they are at it, and how, oh no, I have a talent at this, and I'm watching them, they're just taking off like crazy. And it took them until this point in their life to realize that they had a talent that they could use. And if they ever get out, that's something that they can capitalize on. And that's something I always pushed on them was, take what you've been given and make the most of it,
Right. If you're enjoying this video, please take a moment to hit that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you.
Well, the best part is, if they didn't do their homework, I got to lock them up. Totally joking. That never happened.
Excellent. Now, did you find that moving from the educational arena to the corporate position to be a challenge? And were there aspects of teaching that carried over when you finally went to a corporate position?
Certainly. One of the things that I discovered is you never stop teaching. You still have to teach your clients. You still have to teach your managers and things like that. Why do you want to make this decision, Joseph? Why did you use this color, Joseph? You can't just say, well, because it looks cool. You have to say, well, I'm using this font because it reads this way and it does this. And you have to tell them, you have to have, reasons for the decisions that you make. It's not art. It's design. This is a blue collar craft. Art just exists for its own sake. It just hangs on a wall and it's beautiful. I love art. Design gets to work. And a lot of people overlook it because it's so ubiquitous. Everywhere you go, there's graphic design. Good graphic design really stands out, though. Bad graphic design, unfortunately.
Right.
It's about 75% of what we see, unfortunately.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I've got a couple of examples in my room of I'm surrounded by good design, but I have a sample of your really bad design that I like to share because it's good to show the balance.
Exactly. So why is it bad? And that's the thing, is you have to educate, why is this a bad decision? Well, it's not always that it's a bad decision. There are better decisions, stronger decisions, more efficacious decisions that you can make. That's what I like to try to push towards.
Early in your career, you worked with Labrada Nutrition, right? And so I'd like to know, so you're undertaking tasks from packaging redesigns to video storyboarding. And I'd like to know if you could talk about a couple of these projects. What were you tasked with, and what were the major challenges that you were faced with?
Labrada Nutrition is a Houston company. It's a wonderful group of people. It was founded by a former Mr. Universe, Lee Labrada. He's a bodybuilder, and I'll tell you, my portfolio must have been pretty good because whenever I went to work with them, I was not in very good shape, but they decided to work with me anyway. But as a small company, the opportunity as a graphic designer presents itself to do video and to do billboards and to do posters and to do stand-ups and to do trade show graphics and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to do a little bit of everything at a small company, which is really, really nice. And they encourage you to. They like, hey, we need you to do this. Can you? I can try, and they back your play. And I thought it was really great. And the team and I came together on the packaging design. It was time for an update. Sometimes packaging goes through updates. You probably noticed the Pepsi logo. It's not an update. They went back to the one that looked the best, I think, the strongest one, the big one. So they were like, yeah, it's time to redesign our packaging. So we got together. And the thing is, whenever you're working on a team, the final product is not going to be your design. It's not going to be your idea. You have to put your ego aside. You have to say, she's got a great idea. She's got a great idea. He's got some good points there. And it's good packaging, good design on the team level comes together whenever you are a team, and when you're not working against each other, whenever you're building each other up and complimenting one another and encouraging one another and sending each other websites on, hey, have you tried this trick, or have you seen this? Hey, didn't know Photoshop could do that. So working on in the team dynamic, there's nothing like it. I like doing things on my own. Sometimes group projects aren't always that fun or great, but working on a team, especially with the packaging design and the results from that speak for themselves. One of the things that we would do was go to a sports nutrition store and look at our product on the shelf amongst all the other products. And we would do this in grocery stores and every other places that our brand showed up. And how do we make it stand out from everything else that it's standing next to? How do you make that pop from the competition? These are the kinds of things that as a team, you can brainstorm together. You can get great ideas together. You can sketch together. You can, hey, she pointed out something I didn't notice. I pointed out something maybe he didn't notice, that kind of thing. So as a team, more eyeballs, more brains, more talent on the same project. If you work on that as a team, it comes together really well, I believe.
Absolutely.
And you're not always going to agree with each other, and that's fine too. Nobody's necessarily right. There are stronger decisions to be made. Always go with the strongest decision. Put your, all that hubris, put that to the side for the sake of the end result, the product. It's not your face on the bottle. You have a small hand to play in, a company and helping it stand out. And I really enjoyed that. Great people. I miss them tremendously. Wonderful people.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's great. Okay. Now, in your current role, moving forward a little bit, now you've been with Crane Worldwide for a while, and you're deeply involved with multimedia development, brand strategy. Could you share a project that you are particularly proud of and talk about challenges that you met with that?
Gosh, I was afraid of this question. I honestly can't think of one particular project. It's kind of like once they're done, they're out the door, and on to the next one. So I honestly don't have a good answer for that one on a singular project or anything like that. You know what? One does come to mind. Whenever I was applying for the job, the marketing manager said, okay, look, it's down to you and one other person. So what I'd like you to do is we have a calendar. If you can design, I'm going to assign you both a calendar. You just make the calendar cover for this year, and I'll compare the two. Long story short, I had my first draft to her within the hour, within an hour, and she liked it so much she didn't even consider the other person. And so I got on there, and something that I learned at Labrada, I learned at every job really. Whenever you're a graphic designer, you shouldn't be a one-trick pony. I like to do Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator is my most favorite software. I wish I could use it all the time, but I can't. I have to use other softwares. And it's the same with this, where you have opportunities to do trade show graphics like I did with Labrada. You have opportunities to do a podcast like I do now with Crane. There's opportunities to do webinars. There's different skill sets come into play. If you rest, you rust. You don't want to become a dinosaur. You always have to keep learning things. And that's what this corporate job offered me. It's an international company, which is my most favorite aspect of it, because I get to deal with people from all over the world for the first time. And the people that you meet across this world of ours is just, I could go on forever about that. They're just, it's a great place to be. And it gives me many opportunities to learn new things. Video editing, I've done more of that here than any other place, and so my video editing has grown. Now I'm learning how to fly a drone. I don't even play video games, but I'm trying to learn how to fly a drone so I can, stay relevant and learn a new skill set. And it's just another aspect of what I enjoy, another toy in the toolbox, so to speak, to be a better graphic designer, or just continue to be a graphic designer. So excellent. Now I'm always growing my skills too. You can see I'm surrounded by lots of different like music. I've got lots. I always sort of like to expand. I don't like to stay static with my skills. Yeah, no. For sure. Now, looking at your portfolio, you showcase a wide range of projects, from packaging to murals. And I'd like to know if you could talk about a couple of your portfolio projects. And I'd also like to know if your creative process changes at all for the different types of projects that you work on. I think I'll answer that one first. And the answer to that one is really easy. depending on how much time I have, depends on what work process I use. If I've got a lot of time, it gives me the luxury to really dive into the project. I like to do the history of things. If I were going to learn welding, I would learn the history of welding first. And it's the same with any other project. If I'm doing a mural for a station in Jakarta, I do a deep dive on Jakarta, their history, their culture. And I do this for a very important reason. And it goes back to whenever I was doing clothes designs. There are some things that there are some colors, there are some images that don't translate necessarily in other countries. Whenever I was working for the clothing company, we would throw in a few samples to other countries. We had a sample going out to Saudi Arabia. And so I threw in, there was at the time, flip-flops were all the rage. Flip-flop earrings, beach towels, they were everywhere. So I made a shirt with flip-flops all over it. And we sent that, with the order on to Saudi Arabia. And showing someone a sandal in certain places is an insult. And we had that sent back. And I learned a very important lesson. So whenever I do deep dives, I learn what I shouldn't be designing, words I should avoid, colors that mean different things in different cultures. Things of that nature. Different fonts communicate differently in different cultures and countries. And so it's things like that you got to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see.
Oh, and as far as a portfolio goes, gosh, I do have one favorite piece, and I don't know if you can put it up on the screen or whatever, but it's the one called Tiger. Let me go grab it real quick.
Go for it.
Pretty big.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so like I said, I like to do Illustrator a lot. And this is one of my most proudest pieces. This is something that I did in my spare time. It took me 7 to 8 months to complete. And I would do this during my lunchtime while I was teaching at technical college, just to give me something to do, keep my skills sharp and things like that. But this is a piece I call Tiger.
Oh, wow.
And it's, if you can see, it's just a whole bunch of tiny little geometric designs and stuff. And I made a grid for it that I built over so that I can do depth and dimension and all kinds of other effects and stuff like that. And the fun thing for me is I got to hide all kinds of little hidden gems in there, little Easter eggs, that kind of thing. I'm in Louisiana. I had to do a tiger. I had to make it glowing gold,
That's beautiful. Wow. Lots of intricate ornamentation. Very nice. How long? You said 7 to 8 months on that.
Yeah, just clickety. Just
wow.
Pen tool, mastering the pen tool.
So now, do you find yourself doing a lot of personal projects, or is that something that helps you keep keep sane?
Absolutely, yeah. It's still fun to draw. That's what got me here. That's what I'm going to keep doing, and God willing, I'll never lose that skill. But I think a lot of your fans will understand this one. Around October, they have Drawloween or Inktober or things like that. I love to participate in those. I usually make my own list so I can draw what I want to draw. And it's usually some kind of funny mashup, like a Frankenstein, jack-o'-lantern, or fun things like that. I just enjoy drawing for fun. I like drawing funny things. I like things that make me laugh. I like drawing superheroes and Dungeons and Dragons characters still. I just like to draw. I always have, and I always will. I'm still doodling at my desk while I'm in meetings and calls and stuff. I can't just sit there and talk to somebody on the phone. I got to be doing something. So doodling's where it's at. I love to draw.
I think that's why I love logo design so much, because I am not an artist. I can't really draw very well, but I doodle like the wind. I'm pretty good with my doodles.
Hey, doodling is an art.
And that's how I get into that flow state when I'm sketching and I'm just doodling and working on logos. I can do that for hours and hours.
And it just starts to manifest and come out of the ether into our plane of existence. It's a magical thing that we get to do. It really is.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Well, Joseph, I hate to say it, but we've come right to the end of the conversation.
I was really afraid you were going to say I forgot to hit record. So we're good.
So no, let me check. Yes, it says record.
All right.
I have one final question for you. Before I ask, first of all, thank you so much for being a part of the show and for helping us to understand what you do on a daily basis.
My
I
absolute
appreciate
pleasure. I could talk for hours about this. I really could. I love graphic design.
it. Awesome. Well, from that point of view, I would love to know if you have any advice that you could give to aspiring designers about navigating the industry or building their skills or anything
Right.
like that. Any sort of advice.
Be bold. Be confident in your work. There's a difference between arrogance and pride and hubris and being bold and being confident. Learn what that is and exercise that in your interviews and stand behind your work and be willing to support the decisions that you've made for your piece. Why did you pick this? What were you thinking when you did that? Have a steady, ready answer for that. The basics, the fundamentals, patience, and have fun. Above all, have fun. If you stop having fun, and I'm not saying every project's going to be, a parade, but you can have fun with some aspect of it. Just enjoy what you do. You get to do this for a living. How bad can life be?
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. Absolutely. And once again, thank you again for being on the show. I appreciate it. It's great to meet you and spend this time with you.
I've had a blast. Well, my friend, thank you again for this opportunity. I love coming on.